Recording media player. All right, so welcome back to another game along my journey. Today we have the other two players in my bracket, No Jams and Matty Kleiss. If you haven't watched my first two games against No Jams, make sure to check those out before you watch this one. Spoiler warning ahead. And so we see the first two placements here. Anish, what are you thinking about this board overall?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the board, I feel like it's pretty even in general. You obviously see limited wheat, and we love to see a board with no wheat because that makes the game way harder for everyone. We know no wheat equals defeat. And everyone foregoing the 10-5 spot for wheat there. Red's going to corner that off. I like that. I like the positioning.
Now, as we saw in my game too, it was very important that I cut No Jams off into literally the top part of the board. How important did you find in your games that it it was important to control where people were able to move on the board?
I wouldn't say that I'm any sort of expert at one-on-ones. If people have watched my videos, they'll know. But obviously, the positioning does matter. Obviously, taking up the amount of space that you can matters because then you get access to the best, best hexes, and the production matters at the end of the day. At the same time, though, you don't want to, go too, let's say, road heavy, right? You want to be able to settle. You want to be able to city. You want to be able to dev card. You want to be able to do all the normal things in a healthy way. But positioning does matter at the end of the day. It does matter.
And aside from that, we see No Jams get down a really early city. City is her city spot with wheat and ore, and that could be really big. That could explode really quick. I found in my games that if you didn't get the settlement down early, or if you didn't get a city in the first few turns, you generally fell out of it.
Yeah, and we see Red bro these roles expressing some frustration there, which I can understand. But that's what lack of war will do to you. Lack of war and lack of wheat in this board.
Yeah, on the bright side, he does have the better brick number, so you would think that as long as No Jams can't get to that 9 with the wood port, he should be able to maneuver pretty well in comparison, and I think that's where the big difference is. You got better city numbers for No Jams, but you got better wood and brick numbers for Matty Kleiss.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say right now off the bat, Orange with that early city especially, looking pretty good. I mean, I think if they're able to settle anywhere else, they'll be in good shape. Ideally, eventually getting to maybe an 8-3-4 at the top or the 5-12-6 at the bottom. Maybe 9-5-12 at the bottom. But 3-4 port would be nice, and wood port would be decent. Some options there, but again, limited because of the positioning.
Yeah, I think if I'm in No Jams position, I'm probably prioritizing going to the 5-9-12. The wood port can always come later. You're not really going to get much there. You're not being contested at all on your 6 ore. It would be pretty bold for Maddie to build three roads to get to the 5-6-12 before you could get to the 5 9
Yeah,
12.
yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. I think that's a good call out. But I do think the 3-4 port is something to consider. Maybe build the extra road and take the 3-4 port.
Yeah, because really, if you don't take it there, I mean, the option is go down to the 4 ore, and that's a little more favorable. Because if you don't build the extra road, then you're stuck building it either 3-1 on the 12 sheep, on the 11 wheat, the 4 ore,
Ooh,
or making that long track to go to the top of the board where there's
but
the 8
committing to
sheep.
the port here and 10
Eh,
cards for red.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Red wasting the road to connect early. Um,
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I kind of feel like he had to get moving a little bit quicker, maybe even, fast track to the wheat port and then worry about getting to the 10-5-2 later. But,
Right,
you get down, get
exactly.
the extra ore number, you get more on your 8 brick. I think that
Yeah,
that's a
you need
bit
the
of a
orange.
mistake to waste the resources early.
I agree, especially early on. That connection does nothing for you. With friendly Robron, especially, you want to take advantage of the two VP stats that you have and build as many roads as you can, if any, uh, such that you don't take longest road. Now here, if he builds another road on top of this, he takes longest road, gets to 5. That puts him at 4 VPs, and he can be attacked by the robber. If he didn't connect, he could have built those 2 roads to the port and been totally fine and totally immune from the robber. So
Yeah,
that's
and
the
I mean,
difference there.
it's definitely something that you could have monitored, and that's a very big settlement to get down. And I mean,
Yeah,
this could be a
huge.
runaway. If you get a few tens, fives, and nines, then orange connects all of a sudden, and it could be a runaway. But um, if he doesn't waste that road, he'd already be at the port, and he's looking to settle, and that's a very big difference, especially when he's getting the 4 sheep. You kind of gotta just monitor the tens and fives in your head and say, "Hey, she needs 2 roads to cut me off on where I'm trying to connect."
Right. Yeah, I see that. And we see, Orange here, obviously, I might have my biases. She is my cousin, but Orange here having a very strong performance. I'm very proud, very happy to see it. And hopefully they are able to keep it up. We'll see. One dev card in hand. Who knows what that could be.
Well, personally, I mean, there's definitely a respect there. I said in my games, No Gem's a very good players, 2 competitive games. But
Yeah.
I personally, from my tournament standpoint, I want Matty Kleiss to sweep these 2 rounds because then no matter what, even if I were to lose both games to Matty Kleiss, I would make playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, it's big stakes for you here. You're obviously very invested, and we see obviously now Red connect because of that connection taking longest road with that 5th road, and
Yeah, but
now it can be
now the
attacked
quick
by the
seven,
robber.
the quick seven,
Yeah,
and now you're
to
blocked
punish.
because you,
Yeah,
just like you said, went for the road, and he gets lucky, gets to pull it off right away. And
right.
I don't know if I agree with the 5 block. I think
Yeah, I disagree.
either going after the 10 wood or the 6 ore would probably be my better idea there.
That's
You
fair.
know, either block the city or block half the road, especially with the
Right,
wood port.
and if you're going on pure production too, you multiply the 3 that the 10 brings by 2. That's 6. That's more than the 4 pips that 5 or 9 give you. So 10 is definitely the block over any of the bricks, and ore is obviously a great block as well. And we see orange is going for it here with another settle.
Yeah, now we were talking about it before with, building the extra road and getting to the 3-to-1 port. I don't think that getting that 3-4 was nearly as favorable as building the extra road, building on the 4 and the 3-to-1 port. I think that that's another place where it could be a mistake that cost them later.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Every road here matters. Every settlement decision here matters, and it's going to be about who makes more mistakes because it is 5-5 right now. It is anyone's game, and we'll see who ends up on top.
Yeah, I mean it's also worth noting the Knights are 1-to-1 right now, and they're both holding a
Yeah,
dev card. So it's
that's right.
it's literally as neck and neck as we get through the early game, and we're into the mid. And I have to say, just because of the extra production, I like No Jam's position much better.
Yeah, I do, but obviously some mistakes being made. Right, could have definitely built that extra road to the 3-for-1 port. Would have been really nice.
Hmm.
Now committing to a potential race to the oh and ooh,
Wow,
what is
the,
crazy?
that was a
Great, I don't
big
even know.
road builder to
What
pull.
is your reaction to that? What is your reaction to that?
Uh, you know, my thing is, unless if I had the settlement in hand, I'm probably wasting the road to block Orange from having the shot at even taking the 483 from me.
I agree.
Um,
I
I
agree.
think a very big thing that I learned very early, and I think I learned it in the 3-man game, was I didn't place committal roads a lot. I didn't show what I was doing because often you needed to road settlement in the same turn,
Exactly.
otherwise your spot would
Yeah.
get taken. Um,
Right.
so I think that it's very committal by both of them to build the roads and kind of show your hand early. Because now
Right.
2 rolls go the wrong way, and all of a sudden No Jams is road settlementing and cutting off your road, and then you have a dead road that you can't build through.
Right. And I will say though, from Orange's perspective, they could still build the 8-10 and
Hmm.
that still saves it. They obviously have that port at the top that could save it a little bit. So, and they defer from the race altogether, which I don't know if I agree with either. I think a road
Yeah.
settle would be amazing for them,
You
right?
know what? It's you're looking at 10 cards in hand before that roll, and then you get the 11, they pick up an ore, but 11 cards in hand, you got to feel like the settlement has to come. There's just too many
Yeah,
cards in hand. But
yeah, at some point.
at the same time, we have a robber rule of 9 cards. So you could have held that road, and now you pick up another brick. All of a sudden, you might be able to road settlement in one turn and really cut off the entire game that red has. And they've
Right,
overcommitted, showed their hand too early, and you punish them for it.
right, exactly. So, some interesting plays by both players here, but you know, it'll be about who can settle first here, I think. Uh, I mean, if I'm red, I might settle on the 8-3-4 and then build another road for a port. But orange here building just another road, kind of to nowhere. What do you think of this?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that road doesn't make much sense to me. I think it would have been better served if you go up the 8 sheep to the 3-1, like or is that 2-1 port up there? To the 2-1. But I mean, immediately justifying it that they're wrapping around to the 9-12 and they had the resources to do it. But again, if you had that type of resources, you might have been able to get a bit of a scrap for that 8-4-3 and not just succeeded it.
Right, right. And here, red settling on the strong 8-4-3. That's really strong production. Fortunately, no 3-for-1 port to capitalize on it, but maybe that will come late game. I don't really see a 3-for-1 port in sight for either of these players. Although orange obviously right there on the doorstep. But two dev cards for each of these players. We don't know what they are. Probably not knights though. What do you think they could be?
I mean, I there's always the lure of the VP. We saw a road builder already get played. Um, if I'm holding on to a card for that long, it's either a VP or a Monopoly. That's my personal opinion. I think that they both had chances, and that's a big settlement to grab the 2-1 port.
Huge settlement.
Um, a lot of production on the sheep already, so they're really settling in up there. And they could just build one more road and grab the other port as well, which looks like it's ore. So not a lot of ore production, but you still have two numbers, and ports are going to matter at the end of the game. I mean, you have three 2-1 ports if you do that. Who needs a 3-1 port if you could get three 2-1 ports?
Right, I agree. And from your experience, how important are the ports in a 1v1 game? Like how early should you go for them versus
Um,
production?
I think that in my first game, I did not prioritize getting to the coast and getting the port, and I think that that ultimately hurt me. And even if you check out the 3-man games, which I came out on top on, in that I got to ports very early, and I very much prioritized ports and changed my gameplay a lot after I got clapped in the 4-man tourney. I think that ports are essential, especially if you could place on a spot with your second settlement where you could pick up a road and build it immediately to a 3-1, it is beneficial.
Yeah, that's that's actually a good call out too. And I think that applies to any format, not just twos, right? It applies to threes and fours.
Yeah, and I mean look, the for instance on this map the 10-9-5. I know that it's not the ideal, but you pick up a road if you place there second, and you can
Yeah,
immediately get to the 3-1 port. Same thing with the
right.
4-10-5. You can immediately get to the wood port. So there's a very big benefit to placing your second settlement, knowing that you're picking up a road right away.
Right. I think those early roads definitely matter a lot. We see another city by orange here, and obviously the settles by red. Who do you think's going to win this one at the end of the day?
Uh, I think it's gonna come down to can no jams get the robber off for six? Because
Right.
that has been there for probably about 10 minutes at this point. And
Hmm.
that also gives a lot of insight to the dev card game that we were talking about earlier. No jams 100% does not have a knight, or that would have been moved a long time ago. So no jams doesn't have a knight. there's a good chance Matty Kleiss is sitting on a knight to say, "Hey, you're gonna block me? No, I'm putting it right back on your six." And that was a lot of what we saw in my second game. Was I pulled 7 knights in that game, and I was
Hmm.
never blocked, and that was a
Right.
huge part to me absolutely taking over that game. And yeah, see, we see that he rolls
Yeah,
the 7
exactly.
and immediately plays the
Crazy.
knight because he's saying, "You need the city. You've already mobilized. This six is the most important square to you, and
Yeah.
we're going to block it
And
the entire time."
they do share both the other ore spots, except obviously No Jams here has the advantage slightly on that 11. So very interesting. And and now they're tied on production for ore. Huge city by Red here.
Yeah, and I think that if Orange can connect the roads, because Orange has a setup, and No Jams did this to me in game one, where there was just a very deadly road setup. If she connects her 912 settlement to her 1163 city with the roads, and she has one long road, it's going to be very hard. You have to go to 15 roads and be the first one there.
Yeah. And can she do it? She is at 9 with 2 more. She can exactly do it to get exactly 15. So you're exactly right. Can fit in one more settlement. That would get her to a solid 12. Or sorry, solid 11, sorry. But with 2 cards in hand, could be VPs getting her to 13. And then just dev cards, city twice, and you're definitely gonna be there.
Yeah, and we're seeing Matty Kleiss absolutely take advantage of the fact that he's got the 2-to-1 ports, as he 2s to 1 sheeps, 2s to 1 wheat, and he's just stockpiling or getting ready to place another city, probably on the 843.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the setup, right? It's going to take him longer. He's going to have to set up those cities instead of just you know lucking himself into those because he
Yeah,
doesn't quite have the production
and
that.
now, what's your opinion of the 10 block there?
It's interesting. I think it's very calculated in that now orange produces more wheat than red ever could, but obviously going back to the 6-4 and immediately getting blocked by the robber.
Yeah, personally, I think the 8 is a more interesting block to me. I mean, if you get the 10 wheat and you get the city materials, it is what it is to me, but
Hmm.
that's Maddie's only brick. And
Yeah,
like we said, if Orange can find the time to connect those roads, and there's the 8 block right there, but
there it
if
is.
she can find a time to connect those roads, he's not taking it back, especially if his
Right.
brick is blocked.
Yeah. I think this is probably a solid block and probably finding out uh after calculating it took one attempt at building at putting the robber somewhere to figure out that the eight break might have been better. But 2 roads here by red and huge building going on. Three both bonuses by red here.
Yeah, and there's just not much you could do. Like you could slow it down with the 8, but we're getting closer and closer to where it's not going to be taken back. And frankly, if No Jams wants to win this game, it's either got to be a barrage of rolls or she has to take back the road.
Yeah, and I will say personally, I'm a little bit surprised just because I thought for sure that No Jams would take road here at this point, and it would be hard for red to come back. But it's looking like red just needs to pull some dev cards here, get some luck, and they'll have it in the bag.
We I gotta point it out. There was just like 6 sevens in a row where it just
Yeah,
went back and forth between the 6 and the
yeah,
8. And
crazy.
they're talking about in the chat too. Never seen it. This is a joke. Like I can't believe that just happened. And a little bit of a comedic pause in the middle of the game. As wow, fours are deadly. Fours are just 3 sheep and 2 ore for one player, and 2 sheep and 2 ore for the other player. It is
Yeah,
Dev Card Nation on the fours.
that's right. But still on a low wheat board. Remember that, right? So the dev cards are going to be lacking in this game, and we do see that it is very late game, and we're still at three card icons there for the dev card stack, showing that we're still at the upper end of that dev card stack. Meaning not many dev cards have been pulled.
Yeah, and I mean It's been 4 nights, and there's another dev card pulled right now. But 4 nights have been pulled. We saw a road builder, and that was really it. So like the question is, what are the odds that No Jams is holding three VPs and we're tied at 13?
It's very possible. I would say it's more likely that that's well, yeah, I'm not sure because they would have moved that robber, but yeah, I'm not sure. Three VPs would be kind of insane at this point, 13-13.
Yeah, especially with the
I'd love to
lack of
see it.
cards pulled.
Right.
I think that wow, 10 big, 5 wood coming into the game for No Jams right there. And now maybe we'll see a play for some brick and maybe these roads will connect. And she just 2s to 1, 2-1, and places the settlement.
Now,
And
here's something interesting. I do think that they probably um, do not have three VPs in hand. If they had three VPs in hand, they'd probably try to connect here for 15 roads, claim longest road, and win the game at two VPs plus 11 plus 2 for the bonus. So they probably don't have three VPs in hand, but they probably do have two, just because they've held on to those for so long.
there's point 14 showing on the board, and this is you have now entered where this game could end at any moment, especially with the amount of production. Maybe an 8. 8 probably puts it away. I mean, 5 brick and 3 sheep. You got to avoid that 8 with all your might.
Yeah, it's getting down to it, and it's looking like Orange might be out of it, but we'll see if they can make a last push.
I mean, I wouldn't say that yet. I mean, 3 cards and again not touching them. You
Yeah,
got to
and I
imagine
will say,
on 14, you
I,
got to be doing whatever you can to either build something or pull from the other person. If there was a Monopoly, it would be played there. If there was a road builder, it would have been played a few turns ago to connect. And I think it's 3 VPs.
yeah, it could be, and if that's the case, then it's really down to it. And let's keep in mind, neither player can build another city, so it's going to be either dev card for VP or it's going to be a settle, which I think Matt Kleiss is doing right now. Matty Kleiss.
Yeah, and he's just road settle away from doing it. And say that it is 3 VPs. No Jams has to pull the fourth VP, but like the stack
Yeah,
is so big, there's not much that No Jams could do to get to a place to settle unless if they road settle, and that's
yeah,
you're behind on that
unlikely.
race.
Right, you're one road behind. I think it's crazy if honestly if this was a 3 VP in Orange's hand right now, I would totally, because they road settled. I would have just road and then two more roads for win. That's it.
Yeah,
But
and
it
just
is so close
creep
here,
in
as you
on
can
it.
see.
But I
Yeah,
really think that the way that it's been played with, not moving the robber, not taking cards from them, I think that it has to be 3 VPs and they just can't mobilize to get that 15th point. And I
yeah,
think that there's a heavy likely that that it's if it's not done here, this game is probably over on Matty Clay's turn with 9 cards in hand.
yeah. It might be. It might be. What do they do? And two meek roads, and unfortunately, that won't be enough for them to connect. It will be enough for them to settle. If they have the three VPs, then they're fine. But otherwise, it's game over 100%. And 11 cards here, surviving the 7.
Yeah, I mean, and the 2-to-1 ports, and I feel like it's just too much. I think it gets down here. I don't see how it doesn't.
And trading for 1 brick.
A lot of suspense in this turn, huh? And he
Yeah.
passes it
Oh,
back, so he
passes.
doesn't have it. And she gets 2 brick. Does she have the right coordination to put it away? Three to
Only a
ones
three
for
for
a
one
wood,
port and a.
3 to 1s for a sheep.
Oh, not
Oh,
quite.
oh,
Not quite. 11 cards. It's gotta be it.
yeah. Is the wheat what they were missing on 2 wheats for a sheep? And yeah, that's the game. And Oh, it was three VPs. Wow.
That's absolutely crazy to me. No Jams could have absolutely put it away. Because if
Yeah,
you remember, they built the two roads up to the final settle. They could have just built two roads and then two more roads to connect and get to 15. And that would have been
yeah.
a lot easier.
And only 8 dev cards pulled in this game, and 3 of them
Wow.
were
15 to
VPs.
14, 164 to 1. You don't see these numbers that often. And you also don't see often the person with more resources generated losing the game.
Yeah, and that makes you question, were there blunders in certain places?
Yeah, it definitely does. But that's why there are two games for each matchup here. So I guess we'll see what comes.
Yeah, and personally, I love seeing it. Maddie taking the first game, 1 game away from clinching my ticket into the bracket, and
Fair.
I would love to see it. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, drop a subscribe, hit that bell to know when we post again, and we'll catch you in the next one.